another episode of Primal MMA.
My name is Eric, and today we have a special episode for you.
The UFC always entertains diverse fighters with vast personalities, from math teachers turned middleweight champions to backyard street fighters turned professional KO artists, as well as ex-WWE champions. Mixed martial arts' biggest franchise has boasted a variety of fighters who've made their mark outside of the octagon just as they did inside. Today, we combine some of the weirdest personalities in UFC history in a single video, but before we dive into it, make sure you're subscribed and leave a like and a comment, and I will personally reply back to you. These are the top 10 weirdest personalities in UFC history. Number 10. Diego Sanchez. Hats off to the weirdest dude in the UFC since Kimi Leopoldo entered the octagon. Listening to or reading one of his interview, be it about that one time he thought he was dying from smoking weed, or extolling the life-saving virtues of stevia, is a hypnotic to the point of soothing. Watching him fight is another experience entirely, one marked in recent years by almost unsettling levels of aggression even on an MMA scale. And let's not forget his fight walkouts, punctuated by repeated screams of the word yes. It was inspired by motivational speaker Tony Robbins, and in turn inspired a similar signature refrain from former WWE star Daniel Bryan. What about the time Sanchez celebrated a successful weight cut by eating raw beef and raw eggs? He went on to get pretty sick and lose the fight. He also does great things for his community, bringing that trademark vigor to every effort, including that time he fulfilled the wish of a man with Down syndrome by fighting him in a New Mexico casino. Sanchez lost by first round submission.
Lately, his relationship with controversial figure Joshua Fabia, who was his coach and manager, came to an end after Fabia ignited the spark that led to UFC cutting ties with Sanchez. Sanchez was scheduled to fight fellow veteran and former Jackson Wink MMA teammate Donald Cerrone on May 8th at UFC on ESPN 24, but was pulled from the bout and replaced by Alex Morono. Later, it was revealed that the UFC had terminated Sanchez's contract after Fabia requested Sanchez's medical record history with the company. The request sparked concerns over Sanchez's health from UFC officials, who asked to confirm that Sanchez was not suffering from any long-term medical injuries or conditions before he fought on May 8th. Sanchez and Fabia did not confirm, and thus the UFC terminated his contract. No one else thinks like Sanchez, and his presence can't help but raise a smile. But man, he is weird.
Number 9. Chuck the Iceman Liddell. Liddell may be the most infamous fighter in MMA history, helping put the sport and the UFC on the map in the United States, but Liddell's craziness outside the octagon makes him a perfect candidate at number 9. Not for nothing, but the guy used to fight drunk college students at the bar. He has been in numerous movies, owns a few bars, and has the coolest MMA shorts ever. Too bad he's retired because the Iceman was one to remember. Number 8. Fabricio Werdum. It's hard to know what to make of Fabricio Werdum. That's accurate for every fighter on here, honestly, but whatever reason, it seems more difficult to get a read on the former heavyweight champ. On the one hand, he's a jovial, seemingly innocuous figure known mainly for making a funny face that becomes a lot less funny every time you see it, and rending people apart with some of the best jiu-jitsu in the sport. The other hand is a darker one, in which Werdum frequently brandishes gay slurs and covers with universally decreed Chechen warlord Ramzan Kadyrov. And then there is the middle hand, where he just kind of does a bunch of wacky stuff. He also likes to spend long stretches of fights on his back, waiting for someone who doesn't know he is good at jiu-jitsu to jump on top of him. A spider trying to catch a fly. Number 7. Nick Diaz. Before he became a living myth, Nick Diaz was just a guy. A weird guy. The sound bites are too numerous to recount. That's why the internet is littered with best of lists running down his strangest and funniest quotes. If you're new to this, you could check his take on fight camps, where he said, "I don't know where this MMA term came from. Fight camps? There is no campground. There is no tents." Or you could take in his views on marijuana, which were offered back when such views were more taboo-like, especially in the fight community. Diaz has been suspended 3 times for marijuana-related violations. Speaking of openness on taboo subjects, Remember his post-fight ramble session on paying tax? More specifically, how he didn't pay his taxes? I have never paid taxes in my life. I'm probably gonna go to jail, he said following his loss to Georges St. Pierre at UFC 158. All of this, and we haven't even gotten to his actual fights yet. No one has touched his in-fight behavior before or since. Who else would clown Prime Carlos Condit? He lay down in the cage in front of Anderson Silva, popping up his head with one arm like he was trying to reach his daiquiri straw. Diaz hasn't competed in more than 3 years. Fans are holding out hopes he does, even if he seems comfortable having retreated back to the Stockton, California shadows. If he emerges again, every public utterance will be essential reading, even if he'd probably rather it be any other way.
Number 6. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is an animal. No, he literally is an animal. Lesnar lives in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota, somewhere between a tree and a rock. His seclusion is somewhat understandable, but the guy literally only watches TV for hunting shows. He's married to former WWE wrestler Sable Groves. He grows some really awesome beards, rocks a very unusual Viking-like sword tattoo, and takes crap from nobody. If reincarnation is true, there is no doubt in my mind that Lesnar was Paul Bunyan in his previous life. Despite his odd lifestyle, Lesnar does back it up inside the cage. He has racked up some great victories in the UFC and has brought an edge that's similar to his past antics as WWE champion. Number 5. Chris the Crippler Leben. Chris Leben is nuts. He's tattooed nearly everywhere, paints his fingernails, and resides in Hawaii, where he climbs mountains to clear his head. While Leben's chin serves as his most admirable fighting attribute, his toughness outside the octagon has helped him survive a nasty car crash and a 9-month steroid suspension in 2009. At this point, Leben's toughness and willingness to take the most punishment of anybody directly translates into one hell of a strange persona. Number 4. Tito Ortiz. Regardless of his recent decline in the UFC, Tito Ortiz's heralded past will always make him one of the most personable fighters in MMA history. The Huntington Beach bad boy is one of the sport's most talented competitors as well as a trash-talking expert. Ortiz is a give-it-all fighter, and that's exactly what makes his personality reign supreme. His past media battles with UFC President Dana White only adds to his madness, making him relatable to anybody who's ever hated his boss. He's a legend inside the ring and outside of the UFC, and controls one of the strangest personalities of all time. Number 3. Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock is in fact the world's most dangerous man inside the octagon. But he has had a tailored past of personality quirks, as well as his feuds with Tito Ortiz and Dan Severn have been heavily followed and are some of the best fighter duels in the UFC history. Shamrock's stint in the WWE wasn't a complete failure, but it took away from his potential in the UFC during the mid-90s. Regardless, Shamrock is one of the most intense people to grace the sport, matching it with great ability and pre-fight publicity. Number 2. Clay Guida. First off, if you didn't know, Clay Guida lives in an RV. He prefers it. With that said, the guy is crazy. Masking his persona with long hair, tattooed arms, and a classy outlook on his competition, the Carpenter is one strange dude, but one who is arguably the most likable fighter in UFC history. He's a madman. Guida may live on the side of a highway and wash his clothes in the river, but he'll go down in MMA history as one of the most expressive individuals ever. Number 1. Yoel Romero. There appears to be no halfway for Yoel Romero, and when it comes time to kiss an opponent, he puckers up and barrels down. After he knocked out Luke Rockhold in February, he hoisted up his woozy opponent and planted a kiss on the side of his face. Rockhold reacted like a baby awakened early from a nap, wishing he was still in the crib, not quite understanding what was happening and knowing he was powerless to act. Romero is a mountain of a middleweight. With superhuman strength and deceptively sharp skills, he is also a weirdo. The kiss wasn't the first instance. In 2015, after his win over Lyoto Machida, his post-fight speech was a hodgepodge of biblical references offered in a broken English that may or may not have included a knock on gay marriage. Romero later said it didn't. So that's it for the top 10 weirdest fighter in UFC history. Please let us know what you think about our picks and on which fighter we should do a video next. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment saying I subscribed, and I will personally reply to your comment. We've got 3 new videos coming out every week. See you in our next video, where we will bring you the latest MMA facts.